This spooky scary story time takes place in a small village in Bosnia, and the person who sent me this story said that the village is filled with people who practice all kinds of spirituality. There's dark witches, there's light witches, people dance around fires, and sometimes the supernatural is as vivid as reality. The person who sent me this story said that one night their grandfather went to the pub and sadly found another woman he was attracted to. The thing was, he was already married with the person's grandmother at home and 4 small children. But her grandfather brings this new woman home as his new bride. She says she knows it's strange, but in their village it wasn't that uncommon. Nevertheless, her grandmother accepts her fate and takes her and her small children away while her grandfather gets his act together. She says the woman that her grandfather would go on to lay with and pretend like he was married to was actually a dark witch in their village. She said she had a strange presence and an evil one at that. She would go out to milk the cows at night and they would bleed right through. She would burn his belongings at night and dance around a fire, and she said that her grandmother assumed she did this as a sort of ritual. She said no one in the village knew this woman. She was a stranger, but there were only about 7 houses in the village and it was pretty isolated, so no one really knew where she came from. Her grandmother ultimately gives her grandfather an ultimatum and says, "You either pick me or her, you can't have both." He chose her grandmother. So the woman leaves, she storms off, but she's mad at him. And not long after she leaves, they start finding dead animals all around their property. Her uncle, who was a small child at the time, became possessed by a djinn. He started climbing up walls, defying physics, and nobody could explain what was happening with their family. Her aunt, who was also a small child, all of a sudden goes into a catatonic state and can't talk for a year. One of the other kids in the house, a girl, would go on to have completely unfortunate and terrible luck throughout her entire life. And the final child would eventually pass from a heart attack before being brought back to life. After all this, her grandfather had had enough and he decided he was going to himself and tried to hang himself. He hung for 10 minutes before someone pulled him down and he did not pass. Her grandmother calls an imam to the house, which I believe is similar to like a Western priest. And he comes to the house and tells them that she has buried a hex on the property, and he also tells them how to get rid of it. The imam was so precise with where he said that the hex was buried that they found it exactly where he said it was. But she said the curse of death magic was too great for their family, and it's been nearly 100 years of dark magic through their bloodline. She says the witch has now passed, but unfortunate circumstances continue to haunt their family. She says it cannot be removed and her family must live with it. She says although she never met the witch, she sometimes dreams of her dancing around a fire. If anyone has advice for the person who submitted this story, please leave it in the comments. This is a topic unfamiliar to me, but as always, I try to be respectful and just relay the information that was sent to me in the emails. Keep sending me your unbelievable stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.